Whew. Hey guys, what's happening? So I figured I'd do a video start to finish in English for a change. I just need to give my Arabic fans a message just to explain what I'm saying in the video. يا جماعة الفيديو ده هعمله بالإنجليزي لأنه اوريدي عامله قبل كده بالعربي، فلو رجعتوا الفيديوهات أنا آسف هتلاقوا الفيديو ده موجود. Alright, so that was it. So in this video I just want to address something that's really misunderstood in the fitness community, especially amongst young bodybuilders and whatnot. And your first cycle. It's really funny because, you know, when people get into that, you know, lifters or people going to the gym, or even people who want to compete, they have this idea or conception that when they start cycling, their physique's gonna explode to a whole new level. And that has never really been much further than the truth, because that's not what happens at all. First of all, you have to understand that most first-time users resort to long ester drugs such as, you know, testosterone enanthate, cypionate, or sustanon, or whatever. Sometimes you can stack that with EQ or DECA. You know, I don't know what your cycle is, but I'm just giving examples of what the most common first cycles usually are amongst people. Mine was neither of those. My first cycle was Anavar for 6 weeks. And then after that, my first cycle was 18 weeks of Sustanon and EQ. I think I threw in some Anadrol in there. I won't discuss my personal doses because I don't want to influence everyone in a negative way or obviously be held responsible. But generally, when you take, let's say, 500 milligrams of a long ester, you're not really using the whole 500 milligrams. You're using about 60% of it, or 70% of it if you're lucky. And when I say you're using it, I mean that's what goes into your blood and get to work, as in that's your free testosterone level. So this is what's actually being put to use. Now when you use a shorter ester like propionate, then a higher percentage of that gets into work and is used as free testosterone. And then obviously suspension, you're using the whole thing. So people start with 500 milligrams of testosterone enanthate, and really all they're getting is probably 300. And you don't even know if that's properly dosed or not, right? Because you never know with underground stuff what really works and what doesn't, or what's really properly dosed and what isn't. And then you're very disappointed. Another problem is your duration of a long ester cycle being 10 to 12 weeks will not give you much results. If you're doing a long ester cycle with EQ and enanthate, or I wouldn't recommend DECA at all for a first cycle, by the way. I'd leave that for another 2 years. I'm serious. I only used DECA maybe in my 2014 off season, 2015. And I started at 24, so I think around 27, 28 when I won nationals for the second time. That's when I used DECA for the first time. And Tren, guys, you use that drug like it's some kind of Snicker bar. I've only used Tren for the first time in my life at 200 milligrams a week, 6 weeks before I won my first nationals in Canada as a middleweight. Just to give you a perspective on how gradual you should take things. So back to the first cycle. I think I posted that on a forum years ago, and I said that it's always better to use short esters on your cycle, even though the pinning is more, which is kind of a pain in the ass, pun intended, literally as well. You can deal with the side effects better, because let's say you don't react properly, you can get it out of your system quicker, as opposed to doing a long ester. Then you're kind of stuck with the side effects for 3 weeks, and it lingers in your body longer too. And with a long ester, I'm talking out of experience, to actually see results, first of all, you need higher doses. That's number one. And number two, you need way longer than 12 weeks. So I'm talking 18 to 20 weeks of a cycle. Yeah, I know that sounds kind of crazy for your first cycle, but I mean, when you think about it, you shouldn't even be getting into that unless you plan to take it all the way. So there's that whole premise of why are you even cycling? If you're doing that to look good on the beach, or you know, just to be aesthetically good looking, you know, not a good idea, man. Unless you're competing for fun, then I'd suggest, you know, short esters, small cycles, 10 weeks, few orals, in and out of your body quickly, diet hard, get it done. That's it. But if you plan on taking, you know, your whole fitness journey seriously, so I'll give you an example. When I got into the gym, from day one, from day one I knew I wanted to be a pro. Actually, from day one I knew I wanted to be top 5 at the Mr. Olympia. And I'm 6 weeks out from the New York Pro now, which is my first pro show. And, you know, eventually, hopefully, I'm planning, at least in the plan, to qualify for the Olympia by 2019. Obviously, this is my rookie year. I'm not expecting much. I'm doing everything I can, but, you know, I still can't. I don't know how I'm going to stack up next to the other 212 guys. But that was my goal from the start. And what I did was I kind of pushed myself to the maximum I could naturally. And then at 23, 24, at 23, I first tested with Anavar. And it worked out well, you know. I made some decent gains while dieting. I looked kind of different than the year before. Didn't have much side effects. Didn't even do a PCT, I recovered naturally. And then a few months after that, that's when I did an 18 to 20 week cycle with, you know, long esters and whatnot. And that's when I really started putting on size. But again, my goal, I had it planned from the start. I knew what I wanted to do and where I was going. It was in my agenda to become a professional bodybuilder and to turn this into a lifestyle and a career, basically. So I just wanted to throw that piece of advice out there. Your first cycle is not gonna be what you expect. You're not gonna explode. And if you're not dieting really well, if you're not eating properly, if you're not training hard, if you're drinking, if you're having cheat meals twice a week, you won't see much at all. I'm telling you, because I see it with clients where it's their first cycle and, you know, they're thinking, oh man, you know, clenbuterol. Oh, I'm gonna lose all the fat in this few weeks and still eat the same, you know? They change, but the change that happens is something that they could do naturally. So it's kind of like you're doing 100% and then you're getting an extra 20% with the substances added. It's not really, it's not miracle drugs that's gonna transform you head to toe. The real, miraculous changes start occurring when you go really high in doses with HGH and IGF-1. I'm not gonna talk about insulin because I personally hate it and I don't use it. And you don't have to believe me because I don't really care. I've used it in 2014 for 5 weeks. It was a horrible experience and I gained a lot of fat. In 2015, I used it again in a different way. I didn't feel like shit, but I still got kind of fat and I didn't like it. I just didn't like the feeling that came with it. There's that feeling of unwellness that I didn't like. So I'm not really gonna get into that, but miraculous changes really happen when you up the dose with the things that I mentioned. Besides that, like I said, your first cycle is kind of like your first time having sex. It's not really anything like you expect. So if you're gonna do it, make sure everything else is on point, otherwise you won't see the results that you're hoping to see. And don't get into long esters if you're doing a short cycle, as in duration. And don't get into long esters and do a long cycle, which is what you're supposed to do, unless you plan on competing and taking this very, very seriously. And with that comes the responsibility of having doctors by your side, doing blood work and all that. So the first thing that I did when I turned pro was recheck everything top to bottom. Heart scan, ultrasound, stress test, nuclear stress test, everything. And I was like, okay, now I can proceed to the next step. So I hope that video was useful. I know it's kind of short and unprofessionally made. I'm on the Stairmaster at 2:30 in the morning because it's my second workout. So please subscribe and I will do my best to throw in an English video every now and again. And that being said, most of the other videos are translated and subtitled. So check those out and just click the CC, which is the closed captions button on. Thank you and good night.